For a woman who once believed she had you under her control, the moment you don't come back is the moment her certainty cracks, and the pain that follows is far deeper than she expected. It's not just about missing you. It's about realizing that your silence carries a weight her words can't cover. In this video, we're going to uncover the stages of that pain, breaking down exactly what she feels when you don't return. And through each stage, you'll see how Stoic wisdom guides men to remain centered, calm, and unshaken, no matter how the world around them tries to pull them off balance. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps this message reach more men who need it and keeps you connected to future videos. Now, let's get started. The shock of your absence. Number 1, the shock of your absence. At first, she assumes your return is guaranteed. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. Yet, when you don't come back, it's like a glass shattering. She didn't expect the silence to last. For her, it feels unnatural, like watching a movie that suddenly cuts to black before the final scene. She thinks, surely he'll reach out. Surely he'll break the silence. Because in her mind, the rhythm of attention and response was always certain. But when it doesn't come, when day after day the silence holds steady, the impact is deeper than she admits. It's the kind of shock that doesn't always show on her face, but gnaws quietly within. Imagine this. She scrolls through her phone at night, expecting at least a simple message, a sign that you're still orbiting her world. But the notification never lights up. Instead, she is left in the quiet company of her thoughts. She replays old conversations, checks pictures, even drafts a message before deleting it, because reaching out would mean admitting she miscalculated. The pain comes not only from your absence, but from realizing she had counted on your return as if it were a certainty written in stone. And when that certainty dissolves, it leaves her unsettled, like someone pulling a chair out from under her, just as she sat down. From the Stoic perspective, this absence is not cruelty. It's not a move in a game. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily not to be governed by the actions of others, but by his own reasoned choices. For the Stoic man, your silence is simply a boundary. A line that says, I will not trade my peace for confusion or chase what does not value me. It's a posture of clarity, clear to yourself, even if it creates turmoil in her. That's the paradox. What feels like peace for you becomes disturbance for her. And this disturbance is what makes your absence echo louder than words. Because when you step away, she doesn't just lose your presence. She loses the sense of control she thought she had over your attention. Think of it like a song suddenly cutting mid-chorus. The silence makes the absence of music even more noticeable. She feels that void in ways she can't explain, and it lingers in quiet moments when the world around her grows still. This is the pain she didn't prepare for. Not dramatic rejection, not harsh words, but the cold, unshakable truth of your stillness. She realizes that you are not bound to return, that your presence was always a choice, not a guarantee. And once that truth sinks in, it reshapes your entire perspective. Number 2, ego meets silence. Ego meets silence. Her pride whispers, he'll chase, he always does. That thought becomes her safety net, the cushion that softens the sting of letting you go or treating you with indifference. She believes that no matter what happens, no matter how she pulls away, your footsteps will follow. And for a while, that might have been true. You may have given her the reassurance she craved without realizing the cost to your own peace. But then something changes. You don't come back, you don't chase. Your silence becomes a mirror. And in it, she sees not confirmation of her power, but the limits of it. Suddenly, the roles are reversed, and the ground she thought was firm beneath her feet starts to crumble. This is where her ego feels the sharpest blow. Ego thrives on attention, on proof that it still holds weight in someone else's world. Imagine her scrolling through her phone, posting something she knows would have caught your eye before, only to see no reaction, No sign that you're still orbiting her life. That emptiness, that lack of validation is deafening. Her ego starts to question itself. Why isn't he chasing? Why isn't he proving I still matter? Has he really moved on? These questions sting more than rejection because they strike at her pride. The belief that she would always have a hold on you. For you, the silence is not a weapon. It's wisdom. The Stoics taught that real strength often looks like stillness. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's power is not in how loud he reacts, but in how firmly he holds to his principles. By choosing not to chase, not to feed the cycle of ego and validation, you reclaim your ground. You are no longer pulled like a puppet on strings of her moods. Instead, you stand firm in restraint. And that very restraint speaks volumes. And here's the irony. What she once took for granted becomes what she now misses most. The steady attention, the quick replies, the reassurance that stroked her pride. They are gone. In their place is your silence, calm and unbending. She may mask it with confidence, with laughter, with displays of how fine she is without you. But deep down, her ego burns because every unanswered post, every message you don't send, every day that passes without your pursuit, feels like a bruise to her pride. This is why silence is so powerful. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't beg. It simply exists. And in existing, it forces truth into the open. She learns that her pride was built on the assumption of your need. And when that assumption collapses, the pain she feels is not just about losing you. It's about losing the image of herself as the one who could always draw you back. That's the lesson she never expected. That Theman who chooses silence, who embodies self-control, is not weak. He is untouchable. And in that untouchability, her ego finds no comfort, only the echo of its own fragility. Before we move on, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever noticed how powerful silence can be when pride expects pursuit? Share your experience in the comments or simply type, "I rise above with silence." And if you're finding value in this message, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and let's continue uncovering the deeper truths together. Number 3, curiosity turns into restlessness. At first, she only wonders, where is she? What is he doing? The questions arrive softly, almost like passing thoughts. Maybe she tells herself she's just curious, nothing more. But curiosity has a way of digging in when there are no answers to satisfy it. A day goes by, then 2, then a week, and suddenly that quiet wondering transforms into a restless cycle she can't escape. She checks her phone more than she'll admit, scrolling through old messages, waiting for the familiar vibration, staring at the empty notification bar. She might even open your profile, curious about your silence, hoping for some clue that you're still aware of her. Yet each time she finds nothing, the restlessness grows. This is the weight of unanswered questions. You see, when someone says something directly, even if it hurts, it provides closure. But silence leaves space for the mind to wander endlessly, and the mind is rarely kind when left alone with uncertainty. She starts to create her own narratives, replaying the last moments with you. Did I push him too far? Is he talking to someone else? Did he finally decide he's better off without me? These thoughts repeat like a song stuck on loop, and the more she tries to push them away, the louder they seem to become. Imagine her lying awake at night, phone on the nightstand, reaching for it at every buzz, only to realize it's just a random notification. She puts it down, but her mind won't rest. She scrolls through social media searching for something, anything that explains your absence. And when she finds nothing, the silence becomes unbearable. It isn't just about you not being there. It's about not knowing. And that not knowing weighs more heavily than any clear rejection ever could. Epictetus reminded us that curiosity about others is natural. We want to know, to control, to have certainty. But the Stoic doesn't allow his peace to be dictated by what's outside his control. You've chosen silence not as a game, but as a boundary. You refuse to satisfy her restlessness, because your focus is on mastering your own response, not on managing her emotions. And that very act, the act of restraint, creates a sharp contrast. She chases answers outside while you anchor yourself inside, and here's what makes it powerful. The more restless she becomes, the calmer you appear. That contrast gnaws at her because it flips the dynamic she once relied on. She expected you to be the restless one, Theon waiting on her. Now it's reversed. She's caught in the storm of curiosity, while you walk steadily in silence. And that shift is what begins to hurt the most, because it shows her that the man she thought would always be available has chosen to master himself instead. Number 4, the weight of comparison. The weight of comparison, she starts to compare the man you were with her and the man you've become without her. In her memory, she recalls the version of you who was always there, quick to respond, eager to please, sometimes even bending too much just to keep the peace. That man, she thought, would always orbit around her, ready to give, ready to wait, ready to explain. But when you step back, when your silence stretches beyond what she imagined, something else happens. She begins to notice the changes. Maybe it's your appearance. You're sharper, more disciplined, more intentional. Maybe it's the way you carry yourself with a presence that doesn't chase, but attracts. She sees glimpses of a man who's grown, and the contrast cuts deeper than any argument could. Think about it. While she expected you to linger in the shadow of what was lost, you chose to build. You hit the gym, refined your style, advanced in your career, deepened your purpose. These aren't just surface-level changes. They're reflections of inner discipline. And discipline is something people can't ignore. It radiates even through silence. Imagine her stumbling across a photo of you looking stronger, healthier, more alive, or hearing through a mutual friend that you've been focused, consistent, unshaken. That's when the weight of comparison strikes hardest. The man she left behind has transformed into someone she barely recognizes, someone she may not even feel entitled to reach anymore. This is the sting she didn't prepare for. She thought her absence would slow you down, maybe even make you chase harder. Instead, it did the opposite. Your absence became your fuel, and now, when she compares who you were to who you are becoming, the realization settles in. She didn't just lose the old you. She lost the upgraded version she never imagined would exist. That realization lingers like a shadow, because comparison always reminds us of what we once had but no longer own. A Stoic man doesn't grow to prove anything. He grows because self-mastery is his chosen path, his pursuit of strength, clarity, and peace is not a performance but a way of life. And that's what makes the impact so profound. When your growth is genuine, it's undeniable. It doesn't need explanation. It doesn't need to be shown off. It simply exists, and that existence speaks louder than words ever could. The comparison she makes is not one you asked for, but it's one she cannot escape. It lives in her mind every time she sees the evidence of your discipline. Every time she feels the difference between who you were and who you are now. And the more she notices, the heavier that weight becomes. Not because you've tried to prove her wrong, but because in walking your Stoic path, you've proven to yourself who you were always meant to be. Number 5, regret without a voice. Regret without a voice. She feels regret, but pride locks her tongue. It's a strange and heavy feeling, one she doesn't quite know how to manage. On the surface, she acts like nothing has changed. Maybe she posts smiling pictures. Maybe she jokes with friends. Maybe she even pretends to be busier than ever. But behind all that, there's a quiet ache. Because regret doesn't always scream. It lingers insolence, in hesitation, in the things left unsaid. She might not message you directly, but she checks if you've seen her story. She might not admit she misses you, but she scrolls through old conversations, reading your words again, as if searching for comfort. The truth is, pride can be a powerful prison. To admit regret would mean admitting she was wrong, that she miscalculated your worth, that letting you go or failing to value you properly was a mistake. And for many, that admission feels heavier than the regret itself. So instead, she hides it. She buries it under layers of distraction, a new post, a night out, a casual conversation with someone else. But distraction is temporary. When the music fades, when the screen goes dark, when the friends go home, regret sits there waiting. And here's where your silence becomes even more powerful. Because you don't chase, you don't demand an explanation. You don't press her to admit what she feels. You let her carry that weight on her own. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's exactly what you're doing. Instead of calling her out or pointing to the obvious signs of her regret, you simply live your truth. You grow. You stay disciplined. You focus on what's within your control. And those actions, without a single word, remind her of the very thing she lost. Think about it. If you were to demand answers or fish for apologies, you'd give her an escape. She could defend herself, justify, or deflect. But when you stay silent, she has no defense. She has to sit with her own thoughts, her own choices, her own realization. And that's what makes their regret burn deeper. It's not exposed to you, but it's exposed to her. Picture her late at night scrolling through her phone. She wants to type something. "I miss you. I made a mistake. How are you?" But she deletes it before sending. Pride stops her, but regret keeps her awake. And the cycle repeats. The longer it goes, the heavier it feels, because time doesn't erase regret. It magnifies it. This is the power of a stoic man's restraint. You don't need to force her to say the words. You don't need to prove she feels it. Regret without a voice is still regret. And often the silence of what isn't said speaks louder than anything she could ever admit out loud. Her regret may never leave her lips, but silence has a way of speaking the truth she hides. This is the moment where a man's strength is tested, not in chasing words she refuses to say, but in standing firm in his own peace. Reflection is powerful. Here, ask yourself, have you ever felt someone's unspoken regret linger louder than their words? Did their silence tell you more than their voice ever could? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might be the reminder another man needs today. Now let's move deeper into what happens next. Number 6, the mirror of loss. The mirror of loss. She looks at other men, maybe even entertains their attention. At first, she convinces herself it's a distraction, a way to move forward. She might laugh at their jokes, enjoy their compliments, or let herself be drawn into the temporary thrill of being pursued. But then, almost without warning, something feels off. Something is missing. Because beneath the surface-level charm, she doesn't find the same depth. She doesn't find the same steadiness. She doesn't feel that rare calm presence that you carried. And though she won't admit it aloud, she feels the difference every time she compares. Comparison, after all, is unavoidable. Humans can't help but measure new experiences against old ones, especially when the old left an imprint that can't be erased. Seneca once wrote that true value shines brightest when compared with what is common. And that's what she's beginning to discover. What she thought was replaceable is in fact irreplaceable. The ordinary can never outshine the extraordinary once the contrast is clear. Imagine her sitting across from someone new, a man eager to impress. He talks too much, laughs too loud, or tries too hard to show his worth. Outwardly, she smiles, but inwardly she feels the void. She remembers how you didn't need to boast, how your silence carried more weight than their endless words, how your calm steadiness made her feel both secure and intrigued. She realizes that while anyone can play at attraction, very few embody the kind of presence that endures, and that's where the mirror of loss becomes sharpest, because now she can see that you were never common. What she once overlooked now stands out in high definition. Your discipline, your restraint, your ability to walk away without bitterness. All of these qualities mark you as rare, and the more she encounters what is common, the more clearly she sees what she lets slip away. This doesn't mean she'll confess it, at least not right away. Often, pride keeps the truth hidden. But inside that realization gnaws at her. It lingers after conversations. It echoes in moments of silence. It weighs on her when she's alone. From a Stoic perspective, this is why your calm growth matters. You don't live with the goal of proving her wrong or making her regret. You live with the aim of embodying virtue, discipline, and peace. The comparison she feels is simply a byproduct of your path. By refusing to lower yourself, you force her to see the difference between the fleeting attention of others and the steady presence of a man who knows himself. And once that mirror of loss is clear, it cannot be unseen. Every new face reminds her of what is missing. Every shallow interaction reflects back the depth she once had with you. The pain she feels now isn't just about losing you. It's about realizing that in a world full of the common, she once held something rare and let it go. Time becomes her enemy. Number 7, time becomes her enemy. The longer your silence continues, the heavier her realization grows. At first, she thought it was just a phase you were giving her space, maybe letting emotions cool down. She assumed time was on her side, that eventually you'd circle back. But as days turn into weeks and weeks stretch into months, something begins to shift inside her. She begins to see a truth she didn't want to face. You're not coming back. The silence that once felt temporary now feels permanent. And that permanence cuts deeper than any words could. For her, time becomes like chains. Every day without you reminds her of what she no longer has. She counts the days, but instead of bringing comfort, they bring weight. Time stretches, but instead of healing, it exposes. Each sunrise is another reminder that the distance between you is no accident. It's a choice. She might distract herself, dive into work, surround herself with friends. But when the noise dies down, the ticking of the clock feels louder than ever. Because what is time if not a mirror of our priorities? And with every silent day she sees, yours no longer revolve around her. Imagine her scrolling late at night, expecting maybe, just maybe, that today will be the day you reach out. But the day ends and nothing comes. The cycle repeats until she realizes that waiting for you is like waiting for rain in the desert. Her pride might keep her from admitting it, but deep down she knows. The silence is proof you've moved on. And that realization burns more with time, not less. For the Stoic man, time is something altogether different. Where she feels it as chains, you embrace it as freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that time is the most precious resource we have, more valuable than wealth or applause. To waste it waiting on someone who undervalued you would be to dishonor yourself. So instead, you invest it into your growth, your purpose, your peace. While she drowns in the weight of passing days, you rise with them, shaping yourself into a stronger, calmer, more disciplined man. This is the contrast she never expected. She thought time would weaken you, soften you, make you restless enough to return. Instead, time has become your ally. Each day you choose silence. You build resilience. Each day you focus on your path, you strengthen the distance. And the longer this continues, the more she sees what she lost. Not just the man you were, but the man you are becoming. In the end, time exposes both sides. For her, it becomes a reminder of regret and chains she cannot break. For you, it becomes the arena where freedom, discipline, and peace are forged. And that's why the silence lasts not as punishment, but as proof that your time belongs to something greater than longing. Her attempts to reclaim control. Number 8. Her attempts to reclaim control. Maybe she starts posting more pictures that highlight her smile, her new outfits, her nights out, carefully chosen moments that are less about her joy and more about your attention. Maybe she flirts with others, whether online or in front of mutual friends, sprinkling hints she hopes will reach you. Sometimes it's subtler, a cryptic post, a lyric about heartbreak, or a sudden shift in the way she presents herself. Other times, it's bolder, little jabs meant to provoke jealousy or sudden warmth after long stretches of coldness. On the surface, it looks like confidence, but when you look closer, every move reveals something else. Her unsettled state. What she's really doing is testing. She wants to know if she can still pull your strings, if she can still spark a reaction in her mind, if she can get even the smallest rise from you, a comment, a like, a text. It proves she still has control. And yet this is where your silence cuts the deepest, because the Stoic man doesn't chase, doesn't argue, doesn't react. He doesn't need to expose her games or match her energy. He simply observes, understands what is happening beneath the surface, and carries on with his life. This calmness unsettles her more than any words could. Think about it. If she posts to spark jealousy and you stay silent, she's left wondering if you even noticed. If she flirts with someone else and you don't react, she starts asking herself, does he even care? Did Hurley let go? Has he become so steady that I no longer affect him? Those questions are louder than arguments because they're unanswered. And as we know, unanswered questions weigh heavier than spoken ones. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to be like the rock against which the waves break, unmoved while the sea crashes endlessly. Her games are those waves, loud, crashing, sometimes dramatic. But you, in your steadiness, remain the rock. And the more she crashes, the more she realizes she cannot move you. And here's the paradox. The calmer you remain, the louder your silence becomes. It speaks to her in ways she can't ignore. She may not show it publicly, but inside she wrestles with the truth. She's no longer in control. The very attention she once commanded has slipped from her hands. And the more she tries to reclaim it with little maneuvers, the more obvious it becomes to her that she's the one reacting while you are the one at peace. This is why the Stoic man doesn't need to fight back. His strength is not in loud declarations, but in quiet mastery. And when faced with her attempts to reclaim control, his restraint becomes the most powerful statement of all. It's at this point that the real contrast becomes clear. She's moving louder. You're moving quieter. She's seeking attention. You're practicing discipline. And that gap between her need for reaction and your refusal to give it creates the tension. Can't escape. Take a moment to think about this. How many times in your own life has silence said more than words ever could? Have you seen how calmness unsettles someone who thrives on chaos? I'd love to hear your perspective. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts, or simply type, "Silence is power," if this resonates with you. Number 9. The power of your detachment. Type the power of your detachment. Your refusal to return isn't about punishment. It's about freedom. Tufton people confuse detachment with bitterness, as if stepping back means you are cold, cruel, or trying to hurt her. But the truth is the opposite. Detachment is not born from anger. It is born from clarity. It's the moment you realize that your peace is worth more than constant chasing, that your self-respect is worth more than temporary validation, and that your life cannot revolve around the approval of one person. This choice, though silent, radiates strength in a way she never anticipated. Think about how most men behave in her eyes. They beg, they plead, they argue, they try to negotiate their worth back into her life. In doing so, they hand over all their power. But you choose the path of the Stoic. You understand that needing her or anyone to feel complete would be a chain around your neck. As Epictetus taught, the man who needs nothing is the one who is truly free. And that freedom is their arrest, trait of all. Because in a world where most people are enslaved by desire, the man who governs himself becomes magnetic. She feels this difference even if she can't put it into words. She may not admit it to her friends or even to herself, but your detachment unsettles her because it's so uncommon. She expected your silence to be temporary, a tactic, something she could break with enough testing. But when days turn into weeks and your composure never wavers, she realizes this isn't a game, it's who you are. And that realization stings because it forces her to see that you are no longer bound by her approval. Imagine her seeing you live your life focused, improving, investing in your purpose without broadcasting bitterness or resentment. That is detachment in action. You're not trying to erase her, nor are you holding on. You are simply free, and this freedom makes you untouchable. She cannot bait you into reaction, cannot pull you back with small gestures, cannot shake the calm you've built. In her mind, this makes you rare because men who master their emotions, who let go without anger, are almost impossible to find. This is the paradox of detachment. It isn't about caring less, it's about valuing yourself more, and that shift changes everything. Where she once believed she held control, now she sees that your strength comes from within, not from her presence or absence. That strength is magnetic. It lingers in her thoughts long after she tries to move on because she realizes she is dealing with something uncommon, a man who no longer needs her, and in that very freedom becomes unforgettable. Number 10. The echo of what could have. The echo of what could have been. She replays memories, your presence, your words, the times you shared, the way you looked at her when she wasn't expecting it, the steady calm in your voice when she was storming, the moments that seemed small at the time but now feel enormous in hindsight. These memories don't play like a clear recording anymore. They sound like echoes. They linger faintly, fading into the distance, no matter how much she tries to hold on. And those echoes carry something heavier than nostalgia. They carry the sharp sting of what could have been. Regret for her doesn't always look like tears. It often looks like silence, like hesitation before posting something, like scrolling through old conversations in the middle of the night. She remembers your presence in the room, the steadiness that made her feel both safe and challenged. The way your detachment now highlights just how rare that presence was. The loss isn't just about you being gone. It's about the path she realizes will never be walked. The vacations you might have taken, the plans you might have built, the life that could have unfolded, all of it now lives only in her imagination. And imagination can be cruel because it creates a version of reality that will never exist. This is the echo of what could have been. It haunts her not because you remind her of it, but because the silence does. She can't shake the thought that maybe if she had chosen differently, if she had valued you sooner, things would have ended differently. That if grows heavier with time, because if is a door that never opens, yet always taunts from the corner of the mind. And the more she compares the man she lost to the men around her, the sharper that echo becomes. For the Stoic man, this is where the path split. Where she replays and rewinds, you refuse to dwell. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus both warned against wishing the world to be other than it is. Torregret is to resist reality, to try to fight the past. A Stoic doesn't waste energy on what could have been. He focuses on what is and what can be. That is why your silence carries strength. It's not fueled by longing or resentment, but by acceptance. You do not chase echoes because echoes cannot be touched. You anchor yourself in the present moment, investing your energy into what's real, not what's gone. And that contrast is what makes the pain sharper for her. While she struggles with memories that replay endlessly, you walk forward, unshaken, embodying the discipline to let go. She feels the weight of loss, while you feel the freedom of acceptance. And in that difference lies the echo she can't escape. The realization that what could have been is gone forever, while you have already stepped into what is becoming. This is a good moment to pause and reflect. How often do we let what could have been drain our strength instead of accepting what is? The Stoics remind us that peace comes from letting go of echoes and standing firmly in reality. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflection might be what another man needs to hear today. Number 11. Peace is your victory. Peace is your victory in the end. Her pain isn't just about missing you. It's about realizing you've grown beyond her grasp. What unsettles her most isn't only your absence, but the truth behind it. You no longer need her in the way she expected. You didn't fight for her attention. You didn't explain yourself, and you didn't try to prove your worth. Instead, you did something most men never find the courage to do. You chose peace. And that choice, quiet as it may seem, becomes your greatest victory. For her, peace feels like distance. It feels like indifference, as if you no longer care. But for you, peace isn't about pushing her away. It's about pulling yourself closer to your true center. In a world where noise and chaos are constant, where people fight battles of ego and validation every day, your stillness is rare. Your refusal to argue, to beg, or to chase is not weakness. It is strength of the highest order. Because to walk away without resentment requires more discipline than to stay entangled in drama, and that discipline is what sets you apart. Imagine her late at night staring at her phone, waiting for a message that never comes. On the surface, she can tell herself she's fine, but deep down, she feels the truth that you've stepped into a place she can't follow. While she cycles through regret, comparisons, and silent attempts to regain control, you've chosen a higher path. You've invested in your growth, in your purpose, in your calm. You no longer respond to every tug of emotion or every bait of pride. And that unshakable calm doesn't just separate you, it makes you unforgettable. The Stoics understood this well. Seneca wrote, "The greatest empire is to be emperor of oneself." And that's exactly what you've become. By mastering your emotions, by refusing to let her actions dictate your peace, you've built an empire within. You may not carry a crown, but your calmness, your discipline, your ability to detach from what no longer serves you, that is true sovereignty. And sovereignty is magnetic. It draws respect even from those who once underestimated you. Her pain then is twofold. She misses what you gave her. Yes. But more than that, she sees the man you've become, and she realizes he no longer belongs to her world. Your peace makes you untouchable because it cannot be manipulated, cannot be provoked, cannot be shaken. In choosing it, you've proven that victory doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply walks away, steady and calm, leaving behind a silence that speaks louder than words. And that's why peace is your victory. Because in the end, nothing is more powerful, more attractive, or more rare than a man who stands unshaken in himself. At the end of it all, her pain isn't conclusion, just about losing you. It's about realizing that your silence has reshaped the story. What she once thought was control has turned into emptiness, and what she took for granted has become the very thing she now craves. For you, though, this isn't about revenge or games. It's about growth. It's about living with discipline, protecting your peace, and becoming stronger through restraint. That is what Stoic wisdom teaches us. That real power lies not in reaction, but in mastery of the self. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And before you go, make sure to check out the recommended videos on your screen right now. Each one will take you deeper into the timeless strength that makes a man unforgettable.